Welcome to Can, the marketing podcast. I'm Ben from Human Digital, the B2B marketing agency.
And I'm Steph from Q Marketing. This week, we're covering a topic close to everyone's wallet, banking.
We are joined by two special guests, Allie and Georgia from Westpac, to talk about marketing and two scarily good campaigns.
So get ready for a fright, the good kind.
Happy Tuesday, Steph. And happy birthday for last week.
Oh, and happy birthday to you, Ben. So lucky for us, we share a birthday in the same week. How exciting.
It does, but we're different star signs. To be clear, what star sign are you, Steph?
I'm what's commonly called the best star sign, and that would be Libra.
Oh, okay.
What does that make you?
I'm a Scorpio.
So
we're very close, very close, but also, polar opposites apparently of the celestial line.
Yeah, I like to keep it professional as much as possible, but Ben and I entered into this podcast relationship without me realizing that he was a Scorpio, and so I'm making the best of the situation.
We are. And we, speaking of making the best of situations, this was a bit of a cursed episode. This was supposed to be episode 13.
Yeah, and look, so I actually went back and we recorded this episode originally on the 11th of October. So if anyone's watching the YouTube version of this, we will be wearing different outfits and we will be mixing and matching because when we have guests on, I think we're still ironing out some kinks. And there was a section of the episode where Ben and I were just nodding quietly and you could not hear our guests. So we've had to re-record.
Yes, we have re-recorded and we're pulling out the best of the best from all of the records for you. And what else has been happening this week, Steph, apart from your birthday?
Okay, well, as a Libra, it is always a birthday week. So you and I were both obviously over in Australia for a week and we recorded South by Southwest in Sydney, which was amazing. And then I boosted on down to Melbourne. Lots of tragic things happened. Like I flew into Avalon Airport instead of Tullamarine.
Amateur hour here.
And it wasn't my finest moment in Melbourne, but I did recover and I've just picked up a new client and I'm looking after a team over in Melbourne. So I had a lovely time meeting them and then sort of came back and now I'm struggling to undo the 8 days of eating and drinking that I experienced in Australia. What about you? How's your week been?
Week has been good. Yeah, South by Southwest, had a few client meetings and then headed straight back to New Zealand. And on the Monday was at the TMC Marketers Day, which was amazing. So this was the first big event that TMC have run. I have to say they did a very good job. So a lot of amazing marketers, Chanel and her team, were on form. Human Digital was the photo booth sponsor, so super stoked for us to be able to support in that way. Some really amazing speakers. We were hosted by ASB, and we're also going to be lucky to have Hamish coming on talking about some of his campaigns as well with ASB and his experience.
Awesome.
3 key takeaways for me. Number one, brand still being the engine of growth. Just really honing in on brands that have a sharp purpose, that have real insights, and that sometimes are repetition, using repetition more than production value. The fact that creativity beats budget. So we see a lot of brands throwing lots of money at campaigns doesn't make a good campaign. So big budget helps, but creativity is the winner. And then also building with balance. So knowing your audience, blending in-house speed with agency craft, and shipping brave work. So some really great stories from TMC Marketers Day. Hopefully they do it again next year. If they do, definitely head along. It will become a big event in our calendars.
Nice work, Ben. And so shall we do a little bit of an intro as to what our episode's about today?
Yes, so this is everything banking, and we have two amazing guests joining us, Allie and Georgia from Westpac, and they've got two amazing campaigns that they are going to be chatting about. And, because banking doesn't have to be boring. And Allie and Georgia definitely showcase how it can be, fun as well as scary.
Yeah, and I think, when we first came up with this topic, I was a bit nervous because I thought, oh, banking, it's not going to be very exciting. How interesting can banking and finance be? But I think we'll find that there's so much energy and excitement, and bringing in some different thinking and consumer insight into banking can make it really interesting. So I'm really excited.
It's going to be a good one.
Hi, I'm Allie, and I work at Westpac, and I work in the propositions team.
And I'm Georgia from Westpac in the campaigns marketing team.
Well, lovely to have you here today. Ben and I have been having a chat, and we think that marketing and finance comes with its own swathe of issues and potential hurdles. And I know that you guys have been up to some pretty cool stuff at the moment. Do you want to give us a little bit of a rundown on kind of your roles within Westpac and how you work together? And then we can talk about some of the less brand related campaigns, but some of the more activation and some of the interesting stuff that you guys have been up to. Be really cool.
Yeah. So Georgia and I work in the same team, and the way that we work can actually be quite fluid, which makes it quite fun. So effectively, we go out and identify opportunities and work together to then figure out how to best kind of tackle those opportunities. And then effectively get to the go-to-market stage, which is the fun part with all the creativity. And so the nature of those opportunities can be anything from we're wanting to engage with a particular customer segment more, or maybe we want to prioritize a particular product.
So you come up with the sort of the product proposition or the ideas, and then what about you, Georgia? What's your role in the scheme of things?
Yeah, so I basically have a bit of a handover with Ellie in terms of the proposition, and my role is basically from the creative brief to the agency all the way through to go to market and execution. So what the customer will see at the end of the day, and really making sure that the how we're executing the proposition is done in a way that's not only really creative but compelling to our customers, of course approved by all the relevant stakeholders.
Amazing. So when we recorded this last time, Ellie, you took us in quite a bit of detail through, I guess, the start of these interesting propositions was around Black Friday Hangovers. Is that right? Do you want to give us a little bit, sort of a colouring of that and what that involved? And then it'd be really great to hear from you, Georgia, on what that meant for taking it to market.
We identified a really massive opportunity with young New Zealanders, so the classic Gen Z audience. There is a real gap when it comes to financial literacy. It's quite well documented. Confidence and well-being. Effectively, people, despite the ever proliferation of financial content, like if you think about the prevalence of FinTok or financial TikTok and different influencers, and the democratization of all the things that you can do with your money. There's so much financial stuff out there, but it hasn't meant that people are necessarily any better off for it. It's actually just maybe they're more active, but there's a lot more to navigate. And the people that you would naturally lean on and trust, parents, guardians, they're learning about it at the same time. We identified this real opportunity to talk to this audience around the 4 pillars of financial well-being. So effectively, you're spending, you're lending, you're saving, and you're investing.
Oh, who knew there were 4 pillars? There you go.
Who knew there were 4 pillars? And if you can find ways to kind of bucket it down to what it means and what you can do with it, it's a bit of a game changer. But impulse spending in New Zealand has historically been a massive thing, and you see that with the prevalence even more recently of buy now, pay later and that kind of stuff. Even with Black Friday as a particular calendar date, it's a huge sales occasion. A lot of people spending a lot of money, driven by a lot of marketing tactics to get them to do so, and it's not necessarily stuff they want to buy, and it's not necessarily money they want to spend.
So you could see an opportunity to educate Gen Z, basically, and then I suppose Georgia's part in that was how do we then get that message out and grab some attention? Do you want to? So how did that work from your perspective, Georgia?
I actually started not long after the kind of creative concept was approved.
Yeah, I think that was about it. Yeah.
And
So come in and do it.
Basically the idea was sort of connecting with the target audience in a way that was relevant and unexpected for a bank, I think, to come in on a key spending occasion and not have a sale, but actually to kind of give people a bit of a wake-up call around don't go out and go crazy with Black Friday sales, just be wary, especially coming into the end of the year. It's a really stressful time for everyone, not only just our target audience, but so it was a bit of a PSA almost announcement, and how we could bring that to life. It was through partnership with TikTok.
Yeah.
We knew that this audience were obviously on TikTok, and that's where they're consuming a lot of their financial content. And so meeting them where they are in a way that's relevant to them at the moment was kind of where we ended up. And so the actual content speaks for itself, but we wanted to resonate with this audience. I think that was our kind of biggest goal for the creative.
What was, if you can just, because some people might not have seen it, so what exactly went into the creative? Like yes, you kind of chose a channel where Gen Zs were, which is awesome, but what was the messaging that made it different and stand out?
So we had, I think there were about 6 different episodes almost. So we had a series of episodes that were under about 30 seconds each. And each one spoke to kind of a tip, or would you call it a tip, Allie?
I'd say, probably, a tip, or, we're going to coin our own phrase of like a commonism and around, that's not a word, but
maybe a truth.
Truism. There we go.
That we wanted people to kind of to take on and to really consider when they are going into Black Friday. So one of them was around spending with a friend. So that focused on, if you're going out and you're going shopping, it's always a good idea to take a friend with you so that they can kind of keep you level-headed and, tell you when something does look good and when it doesn't, keep you honest, I think, with your spending and not let you go too crazy. And then a few others, we also had kind of ties to a lot of our products and tools that we have, like our budget calculator and cash nav, where you can monitor your spending habits and set up alerts and things like that, so that, before you do go out and go shopping, just having a check on those and making sure that, you know exactly what you have in your budget and exactly what you're looking for before you do go out and shop for Black Friday sales.
And the prevailing kind of theme was all around avoiding Black Friday hangovers. So whilst I know there's a lot of rhetoric around this generation not necessarily being the biggest drinkers relative to past, it was quite interesting in talking to the audience, because as you can imagine, we tested the creative right the way through, as well as all the insights, etc. And the thought, or the idea, the word of a hangover still really resonated, and it meant different things for different people, like, overeating, or, eating like a particular type of junk food or whatnot. But it was still that feeling that you had that didn't feel very good after you'd done something. It wasn't us saying, and it wasn't our role to say, don't spend, but it was around just be aware, consider the possible implications, the known implications, and here's some utility in case, you want some help with that.
It sounds like you invested quite a bit in content. Did you only put it on TikTok? Have you reused it across other channels, or how did you get the most out of that?
Yeah, so we did use it on a few other channels. So we used it on YouTube and on Instagram and Facebook, but we also, and TVNZ on demand as well. But we have, and we also changed the VO and the graphics slightly to be avoid a spending hangover, so that we could use those assets kind of going into the peak Christmas shopping period. So we got quite a lot out of those.
How did you find the talent? Like what were your choices around the talent, and how did you source that?
Yes, I think quite interestingly, so that we actually found them through, they were a group of friends. I think some of them were flatmates, and one of the first people we found was through the stylist, actually, and it was a friend of hers, and she thought, oh, this person would really suit it. So they were actually just a bunch of mates that all knew each other.
Awesome.
So their first kind of, I think it was only one of them had done any acting previously, but basically the rest of them was their first acting gig, and they were just stoked, and it was really quite a carefree.
It was a really fun.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And you also brought it to life with Ārepa as well, didn't you? So do you want to talk a little bit more about kind of that physical, tangible aspect of the campaign?
Yeah, there's absolutely a role for content, and it's awesome to have evergreen assets so that we can use those on and on. But there's something really nice about having something physical in the real
Yeah.
world and taking any opportunity to kind of extend, a piece of comms or a campaign or whatever it may be into that space can be the difference between like good and great. And so one of the opportunities we had was to create a physical hangover prevention drink, as you mentioned. And so we partnered with Ārepa. We quite liked it because it was the brain drink. There were some questions in and around whether that was the right partner
But
based
there's always
on
questions, right, Allie? Like
totally.
thinking about who you work for and the number of stakeholders that get involved. Can
And
we
it's
use the
good-
word
good-
hangover? Can we,
Totally. And people are doing their jobs and they're wanting to make sure that it's, all within the risk appetite and all these different bits and pieces. We were really keen on Ārepa because I think, local Kiwi brand, it fit really nicely with the brain kind of drink. And it was a limited edition can run, which was really cool. And I absolutely love that can. It sits on my desk every day. And
is it actually a limited edition can? I didn't realize it was. So I was just going to say the color palette's not too far off yours, but
yeah, no, it was actually quite convenient that the colors kind of lined up. But the label itself, we did the full thing is the drink is for spending clarity, and there's a whole spiel on the back, and yeah, so there was a lot
I
of
think we did
time, effort, and
about
thought that went through.
2000. I think there was like 2000 or so of them, and we ran basically like we wanted to have some sort of presence in, I guess, those shopping centres around Black Friday, and so we
Yeah.
partnered with MediaWorks to get it out there and give away those drinks during that Cyber Weekend, Black Friday.
I don't know what this says about me, the fact that I didn't even realize it was a custom can because I've been hand given one.
That's brilliant. And what I like about this is that you're not just focusing on digital, you're weaving in other channels, in particular in person. Did you see that as an activation? Like, how did that in-store experience go?
Yeah, really well. We knew that people do kind of shop up, not necessarily just online, but in person as well, especially over that weekend.
Yeah.
And we wanted to be out there and have that brand presence of not only being seen as kind of helping people avoid a Black Friday hangover, but also just having some sort of presence during that really busy time where you're not just trying to sell people things and you're not just having a sale like a lot of other brands are at that time of year. So something quite different for a bank, I think.
That message would have cut through, right? And that's the other thing, you're trying to appeal to I guess an audience that would be they're quite hard to find. And so what I think this will do is reappraise Westpac as an option outside of, because I think one of the things Ben and I have talked about is a lot of financial advertising and banking advertising can become wallpaper. It's like, oh, great, another home loan rate. Like, it's, where's the bit that's relevant to how I live my life? I might not be ready to buy a house. So what else, and so I think being where Gen Zs are and speaking in their language is a really smart play.
And I think it's a big call from, the stakeholders that allowed us, to take this right the way through. But it's quite a big call to put, your marketing budget into education-based activity, which it was. Sure, we were elevating up some tools, but the budget calculators and other bits and pieces that ultimately help people that are freely available to people. And so, the trade-off obviously is, strong conversion campaigns. So, it was awesome to be able to show up in a way that, genuinely aligns to what it is that we're wanting to do, which is demonstrate, this organization or this brand cares about people beyond money. Like, it was actually really cool to be able to show up in a way that did that, and in a way that was really interesting because financial education can be pretty dry, let's be honest.
So when you were selling in the business case, what were some of the KPIs that you were putting in front of the decision makers to get it across the line? It sounds like this is very top of funnel and educational. So I'm assuming that will be impressions or, percentage of target population that sees the ad, but step us through that.
Georgia and I kind of sort of more personally prescribe to is James Herman did a really amazing job of explaining an example of Walker's crisps in the UK and how they demonstrated success across different layers. And so I found that incredibly helpful in connecting through creativity and a campaign to actual real commercial objectives and subsequent results. And so we were defining success at a campaign level. And so, yes, that was impressions, that was engagement with the influencers that we chose, that was number of cans put out, that was view through rates, all everything you'd expect at like a campaign media level, but also time on particular financial education pages on our website that we were pushing through to. And obviously volume of traffic and whatnot as all key indicators for campaign success, with the theory that if you can have a successful campaign, whatever that looks like, that will then change how people think and feel about you.
Yeah.
And so there was that consideration piece, and we're really lucky that we've got some really great, brand consideration metrics that we refer to, and so those were baked in. And then we wanted to, in changing how people think and feel about us, get people to then take action, look to join us as everyday banking kind of customers, and then engage with us as a bank for the sort of evolving product needs. And so effectively we just needed to piece that story together and communicate it in a way that made sense to all the various different audiences. But as you say, it is a top of funnel. And it is as we all know as marketers, it takes a while to build consideration and change how people think and feel. It's fairly easy to do that with a short term. It's fairly easy to get, pretty superficial results on paper with a short term campaign, but to build long term behavior change is something quite different.
And for the audience members that were looking to engage, what were the action options for them? If they were watching the ad, where were you sending them if they were clicking on a link?
They were being primarily sent to our campaign landing page, which we called the Black Friday Hangover Guide, or Avoid a Black Friday Hangover Guide. And on that page, we really kind of step through all the different steps around what you can do to avoid a Black Friday hangover and point them towards kind of those proof points that we have on our website elsewhere. So talking to certain apps and tools that we have, more of a soft sell. So if they were interested in, opening up an account or getting a debit card, we obviously can step them through that as well. But that wasn't the primary driver on that page as such. It was really more of an education piece, and allowing them to kind of explore at their own leisure our other kind of tools and articles that we have to help people, manage their spending, really.
Awesome.
That's brilliant. And I mean, let's be real, if someone wants to open an account or something like that, they know exactly where to go for that. And obviously they can click back through if they want that.
It's a bit of a funny one. And I think having started fairly recently at Westpac, I think like you were saying before, Steph, you're not, no matter what age you are, you're not necessarily in a life stage of, I'm going to open up a home loan or I'm going to get a new card. It's kind of, and if you don't know enough about us or you don't consider us, then we kind of can't necessarily go in with a hot offer because you might not be in that frame of mind to take it up. So it's sort of building that consideration and making them consider Westpac so that when they do decide to get a credit card or get a home loan, that they do think, maybe I'll think about Westpac. I might check out their rates, or you know what I mean? And or when we do hit them with an offer later on, they'll think now's the time,
So building off that success, which I'm assuming was hugely successful because obviously you've been nominated for awards, just, that was kind of the start of this taking, doing more interesting things with products. I really want to dive into your more recent activation, which is now I'm going to say this wrong, the credit card.
House of Credit Card Horrors.
There you go. Thank you. The House of Credit Card Horrors. Right. This is something, same, but different. So take us on the journey of what this was for anyone who explained it like we're five.
So still within the realm of financial education, but make it interesting. That's the brief, basically.
Great. Yeah.
And I think personally the scariest, most confusing area is as just a human being is lending being, anything from like a personal loan to a home loan to a credit card. But I think credit cards were a really interesting area to play in. And I say that because I think a lot of people, myself included, grow up hearing about all the horrors around misuse of credit card. And there's been, a lot of information in the media over the last couple of decades in and around the use of them. And we just thought it was going to be a really interesting area to explore because there's clearly an appetite for credit, and you can see that in the prevalence of buy now, pay later. And I think I'm not going to demonize buy now, pay later. It's just I think that there is a lot of really
it's not going away.
It's not going away, and there's some really interesting literature on behavior use with it. And like with anything, once you understand how something works and how it can work to your benefit and what to sort of avoid in an ideal world, I think there's real power in knowledge and education. And so that's effectively where we wanted to start. And it was really interesting tackling credit cards because neither Georgia or I are big credit card users personally. And so we were kind of starting at base with the audience in terms of understanding of sort of how to make them work for you. But there was a really interesting insight, which was our springboard around the fact that, like I say, there's appetite for credit 100%. You can see that in the usage of buy now, pay later as an example. But people don't necessarily understand how they work, and so they're scared of them and they tend to avoid them. So the job that we were really keen to do was to, corporate speak, but unlock credit confidence.
So unlocking credit confidence. But then how did the idea, because you activated this.
How do you get from that?
Yeah. That's great, right? But you could just go, that could just be an advertising campaign. So where did you bridge that gap to go, okay, well, we want to just don't make it boring?
Yeah, well, it was a lot around the insight that, again, similar to Black Friday, I think, thinking about the audience, what they're into, where they are, how they speak, where they are in the moment. And we found that, the kind of the insight was really that debt is something to fear, but when you kind of know how to use credit well, it's actually nothing to be scared of. And so the creative agency Saatchi Saatchi, they came up with this idea of, using horror as kind of it's a genre that's basically driving the whole movie and TV industry at the moment. And a lot of that demand is being driven by Gen Z. So
again, back to the Gen Z.
Yeah, tapping into what they love. And making it, I guess, something interesting for them to pay attention to, and not just another lecture that they can ignore from Westpac, but something that's actually captures their attention. And what's this? This is quite different for Westpac. But not only is it different, but it's actually telling me something I should know.
Yeah.
And so they really captured it, went in with that horror idea. And out of that, one of the ideas was, what if we could do some sort of Spookers-esque haunted house, as an activation? Allie and I, we are hot on activations. We just they're so much fun. And it's just another way for that audience to kind of connect with Westpac, I think, in a way that is not just online.
Did they suggest that you go to Spookers? Because I bet you that came up.
Yeah, so we the guys actually did. So we worked with an experiential agency, Spur. We partnered with them for the house itself.
I love Spur. They are excellent.
Yes, yeah. So they came with great credits, and they reached out to the owner of Spookers, and so he actually worked alongside us, and a lot of the talent that we used at the activation was all Spookers talent.
Awesome.
And they were awesome, yeah. And they came up with a whole lot of kind of insights as to how to kind of run an event like that, in terms of how to get people moving through it, all the security sides of things, and just the experience, because I think that's really hard to know until you kind of built it and you're there. But so he gave us a lot of advice.
There must have been, I'm just imagining how you pitched this upwards in the business. What question, For everyone listening, what questions did you get? What about people with heart attacks? I'm sure, surely.
Yeah, what's the plan? What's the plan if someone really freaks out? What's going to happen if people don't want to finish the experience? Because each room was themed around a different credit card fare.
Yeah.
But what was amazing kind of getting to work with Spookers and Spur and Saatchi's was that it was just so slick and seamless in terms of like there was a whole CCTV because the activation of the event was, designed to be enjoyable and the success metrics were, how many people were coming and it sold out, which was big tick, and we got 1,200 over 1,200 people through over 3 days, big tick. But it was a film set effectively. And so whilst we had set aside time to capture content from each of the rooms, we had the CCTV footage going the entire time. And obviously people consented to that as they signed up to go, and then were reminded of it when they started. But it was amazing because there was a little control room that was watching everyone go through. So it was brilliant from a safety and security perspective because,
double whammy.
Double whammy. But also it meant that we were able to kind of adjust the experience, is it too late here? And people can kind of foresee what's coming. We'll dark it here and test and learn with the different sounds and just really optimize that experience over the 3 days to really make it the best it can be. Yeah, so that was really, really cool. And like I say, they're amazing. Like, when the fire alarm goes off, all the lights come, it was all done. So I think that that helped to appease a lot of concerns here. But I think Black Friday Hangovers really paved the way for us. I think if we hadn't done Black Friday Hangovers, I suspect we wouldn't have done house or credit card fares. But I think people saw that whilst the work is out there and change and kind of bold creative can 100% make people a bit nervous, but through the success of that piece of work in terms of how it was received by the audience and how it resonated, the subsequent kind of success measures, as we mentioned, that really helped to pave the narrative of, we've tested this, we're really deep within the audience, applying those kind of learnings. So you got to have some trust, right?
This is slightly left field, but the agency question, because I'm imagining, Georgia, you would have potentially led this. Saatchi and Saatchi are your creative agency. And so often what we see, and Ben and I have talked about this a little bit, is agencies fighting for their piece of the pie. Was there always going to be an experiential element to this campaign? Where did the idea come from? Did you give a brief to Spur separately and go, we want a way to bring this to life, but we've also got our big creative territory over here?
It really was the fact that the idea was around horror, and that came from Saatchi and Saatchi, but we were really the ones that pushed for an activation, and we were like, we really want to do this. And so that's when Spur came on board. But in terms of how they work together, there was actually none of that. I think because the creatives at Saatchi's, they were so excited and pumped for this work. And I think they knew it was like, groundbreaking for them, but not also for Westpac. And so they were all on board, and there was so much for them to learn from Spur and Spur's production team as well, and vice versa. So they worked really well together, and kind of kept us abreast of all the updates. But basically, they did a really good job, and I would 100% work with them again.
And so to be fair, I think I just want to add, I think it's I second what George is saying. I think Saatchi's are honestly such an amazing partner, and I think part of it was just trying to gauge kind of our appetite. And I think as you would have seen the evolution of the work, I think we are, and I think part of there's been some change at Westpac, including new CMO, etc. And I think maybe the appetite for even bolder creativity as
doing it differently, maybe.
That's it. That's exactly it. And so as soon as we gave, and that's been the brilliant thing, as soon as we have given license to go actually push us, take us to a place where we're maybe a little bit uncomfortable, they've totally risen to the challenge. And as Georgia said, found the best partners and encouraged, collaboration with the best partners. Honestly, the way that they worked together was incredible and playing to the different strengths. And equally, bringing Spookers on board, right? Like,
Yeah.
Spur and Saatchi didn't need to do that, but they were really committed to the best creative outcome.
You couldn't get the stylists group of friends for this one, right there.
No.
Here's the talent. I mean, I guess, and the same question back too, because let's be honest, there's no way. I mean, I've seen you repurpose this content because this activation. So there was, what did you say? 1,200 people went through the activation. That is not enough to sign off what I know that budget would have been. So talk again about kind of how you possibly not evergreen content in this instance, but what other channels this then manifested itself out into.
Yeah, so we knew that, creating the event itself, we'd get a number of people, and just Auckland being Auckland only, it can only go so far. But what we really encouraged people with throughout the event was to kind of, we actually had, because we had the security camera footage and we had kind of photos being taken as they walked through. Basically, when they came out of the event, they could see their own photos, kind of choose them, download, send them to themselves, and then share them on social media. So that was really how we got, a lot of the traction, amplifying our own message, that credit cards don't have to be scary, was through people posting their own social content from the event,
which is
spreading
brilliant.
that message. Yeah, spreading that message far and wider than the event could do on its own. We had a Fair Free Credit Hub online, obviously, and that also sent people. I'm trying to think what we had on that page, but that honestly, yeah.
Georgia had optimized. Basically, there's like a whole bunch of different articles and pieces of content on our website which did exist, and she completely revamped all of them to be, really accessible language-wise, so you can basically understand everything that's on there. It's all developed to help with financial well-being and help you be better off. So the Fair Free landing hub guide, whatever you want to call it, linked off, like with Black Friday Hangover guide, linked off to a whole bunch of updated content, utility, and so it was a really through the line, end-to-end considered experience over and above kind of an event with some pretty decent earned media.
Yeah, we were quite good test cases because, as Ellie was saying, neither of us are huge credit card users, and we would always be like, do you get this? Do you understand
Does this make sense?
This TNC, yeah, what is on this statement? Like, it is so confusing. So, like we basically did it for ourselves, and I think, I'm kind of converted now, and I believe in the cause, which is, shows that you can change people's minds.
Your debt's gone up massively since you've done this.
Yeah. I'm using those interest-free days, yeah.
So we're right in the middle of spooky season, and Halloween is, I think, this weekend. Was there any alignment with this campaign and Halloween, or is it just coincidental?
Well, we knew Halloween was coming up, but we have our financial year actually ends end of in September, so we really wanted to get this out the door kind of before the end of September, which we launched on the 29th, I think was the official launch date. But no, we thought we could possibly push it out to Halloween, but actually we didn't want this to become like a Halloween campaign. We wanted it to kind of stand alone on, and it's not necessarily around Halloween, it's just horror in general and the culture around that. So it's a nice tie-in, but it wasn't something that we were, aiming for as such.
It was a good discussion at the time of because originally we were due to go live a little bit earlier, but we as a collective decided that we wanted to actually really put the time into kind of making sure the experience was the best it could be. And then, as you say, it was kind of encroaching on the Halloween time. And so we did have a really good discussion about it. But I think where we landed was the beauty of it, as Georgia said, is that it's that cultural intersect of horror as a film genre. And if we landed it on Halloween, we just didn't feel like it would have the same cut through from a relevance perspective, perhaps, but also it's a busy time, right? And there's lots of people.
It might have felt more gimmicky too. That's
it.
And with these credit card fears, there's often a criticism of marketers that we really only do campaigns. But let's talk about product. Were there any product insights that came out of either research or the campaign that you've fed back to the product team?
one of the insights we found was that, credit card uptake or, applications wasn't necessarily falling for this age group. This isn't Westpac data, but this just in general. Wasn't falling, but the usage was. So we kind of, as a result, it was sort of like one of our strategists likened it to people getting a car without a driver's license and kind of not knowing how to use it. So you're getting it on board, but you're all of a sudden not really using it, but you're probably paying an annual fee for it, and you're probably using it in a slightly incorrect way, whereas it's actually something you can use for everyday spending. You just need to know how to use it properly. So that was one thing I found quite interesting, Allie.
Yeah.
How about you?
I think what I liked about it was a lot of the reservations around credit cards apply to all credit cards and not just ours. And, I think, we've got a strong set of values and ethics as an organization, but also as individuals and as marketers, knowing that we can influence. And so things like how to avoid the classic fear as a debt trap, whereby people are worried that they spend money, they incur interest, and it's this kind of pit. But I think what people don't realize is that, the ins and outs around how you can, when you need to pay it off before you incur interest, and the fact that, and I'm sure this is true of, most organizations, having a conversation early can help. People can come to the party and help out. But what was interesting to me was, like I say, each of those key fears actually were relevant to the category as opposed to a specific Westpac card. But interestingly, I say that there was one around the fees that you incur with credit that you may not incur with other products. And actually, it was real helpful to go, actually, we have a fee-free credit card that has no fees,
That's your hard sell.
That's the hard sell, exactly. And it helped, the campaign was coined kind of fear-free, and the card product name is fee-free, which I've now started calling fear-free internally on accident. But yeah, so it was a really nice tie-in and actual genuine utility. But yeah,
that's awesome.
Also just one key point that we really tried to hammer home with a lot of our content was around the idea of a credit card as being a tool that you can actually use to build your credit history, which kind of unlocks financial opportunities. I think if you're 18 years old, you might not think you have much use for one, but actually if you ended up wanting to get a home loan or a personal loan for a car or something like that, or even just applying for a rental or something, having that credit history can actually be really helpful later on in life. So, and that's the same, for all credit cards, but if you do it in the right way, it can actually really help your credit history and grow it.
Whereas buy now, pay later ruins your credit history, right? Like it has the opposite effect.
It can have some very adverse effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're not here today to dive into that. And then I think, obviously we would love to see this win some awards. Is that your intention?
Hope so. I think
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we hope so. I think there's some amazing award shows in the country, and there was some amazing work that went in from, media channel selection, obviously with, activation of the haunted house in the middle of the town, through to, creative ideas and obviously connecting that in to good business outcomes. So yeah, hopefully we'll be at the award shows next year and demonstrating, good creative can lead to good outcomes.
That's awesome. I think thank you so much for sharing that. It's really interesting. And I think for us, really good to see what might be considered to be quite a traditional industry doing something really innovative and interesting. And thanks for coming in several times to record this.
No, you're so welcome.
I think
I
think I also had those reservations probably coming into a bank that, things could possibly be a bit boring or a bit stale.
Yeah.
But I think if you start, and our CMO has, really harped on about this and in a good way.
Yeah.
She's really drilled it into us.
If
you start where the customer is and you start with those insights, I think no matter what anyone else in the business thinks or says about a creative idea or your media channels that you've chosen, if you can back it up with that information, then there's really, there's nothing that they can kind of say that, and then that's how it's been. I think people go, oh, that's not really for me, but I can totally see why you're doing this and where you're coming from, and I can see how this would actually really resonate with this target audience. So great job. So that's been really, really confident boosting, I think. Yeah.
Hear to that. That's what we like to hear, Ben.
Agreed. Really well done. And thank you both for coming and sharing your stories with us. And good luck.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Guys.
Thank you so much.
See you guys.
Oh my God, we just changed clothes and locations. How did that happen?
This is the most fractured episode we've ever done from a costume change perspective. It's like we're on a show.
And I have no lighting.
For those watching on YouTube, we've magically jumped forward in time. So that was awesome to hear from the girls at Westpac. Who do you bank with, Ben? Who's your favourite?
Well, I am an ASB boy, and I've been with ASB for a while. Really like their app. Really like their ads. I have dabbled with Westpac, and I do have a couple of American Express cards. What about you, Steph?
Okay, well, I'm really happy to say that I actually am a current Westpac customer, and so that's probably partly why I love the stuff that Allie and Georgia have been talking about. But I am in the middle of I'm about to renegotiate my mortgage, so I'm open. I'm really open to possible.
Whoever gives you the best deal.
Or just the best marketing, hey, who knows?
And so, question: are you going through a broker or are you going direct?
I'm going through a broker, and she's amazing. So that's one of my jobs today is to do all my financial stuff for that. Right. So what's happening next week? What are we up to for the next episode?
Well, next episode is going to be TMC. We've got Chanel coming on to talk about Marketers Day. So we're going to get the lowdown of the genesis of Marketers Day and the genesis of TMC. So stay tuned for that episode.
Exciting. Awesome. Well, have a great weekend, Ben.
Thanks, Steph. You too. Have a good weekend, everyone.